From VentureX Studios, it's JP, Kathy, and the crew.
And the crew, happy Monday morning. Hope you had a weekend that was worth having. Yeah, I don't sound like the Slim Jim guy. Tried to. State Fair of Texas food we'll be talking about. And how about Dr. Clothier coming on this morning? And we're going to talk about what you need to do to make sure that your kids are healthy for their first day of school. And so we'll jump right in with Dr. Clothier. Good morning, Dr. Clothier. Dr. Clothier, good morning. Well, while he is connecting, Brett, let me know when he is connected. Getting ready to talk about how to get ready for school. You know, this morning's topic on the news from about 5:30 on has been, why should kids have to wear masks at school? Why are adults being told that if they don't vaccinate, that they are the reason that children are going to be required to wear masks at school? So we're going to talk about that later on in the show as well. Good morning, Dr. Clothier. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well.
So lots and lots of wellness.
On the camera here.
What's that?
Yeah. Oh, there we are. I lost the show on my phone here. I thought I was gone. I thought you got rid of me.
No, sir. No, sir. You're our expert.
Oh, okay.
We don't get rid
That's
of our
nice.
experts. We keep the experts. We like the
very
experts.
Kind, very kind.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thank
Here
you.
I am.
So, Dr.
Yeah,
Clothier.
so what were you doing? Yeah.
You know, we're going to talk about wellness and getting ready to go. And so let's talk about something just very quickly to get it out of the way. What's your favorite state of fair Texas food?
Boy, I'd have to go with the classic corny dog. That's nearly the only thing I get there.
You know what?
That's kind of the indulgence, I guess.
Absolutely. You know, my other favorite is their root beer. They have ice cold root beer.
Of course. I had that a few years ago, and it was fantastic. You're right. Maybe it'll be time again the next decade.
Maybe time. Well, talking about wellness, of course, a daily corn dog is not wellness, of course.
True.
And daily state fair.
It's a good thing I'll go to the fair every day.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So kids are getting ready to go back to school. Do masks become a part of the wellness conversation?
Oh, that's such a difficult one. I think they're going to need to be, unfortunately, and everybody hates that, I know. But, we're just seeing so many infections in young people. And, of course, a large group of young people can't be immunized yet because of the age challenges there. If you're under age 12, you're not for the vaccine. And if you're 12, 17, most people seem fairly reluctant, although I've had a number of patients get it, but not nearly like adults. And so I think, the challenge is several layers there. One is if you just are really good with immunity and you don't get sick with anything. Let's say you're an above average 7-year-old that just never gets sick, but you live with your grandmother who's on maybe a chemotherapy for chronic leukemia, for instance, then that child could carry the virus home and infect the family because they're still, if you're not prone to gain it, which may be, you still can carry viral particles around and infect people. So if you wear a mask, you minimize the amount you would spread to somebody else if you were that carrier, and therefore to somebody else picking it up and taking it home and being a problem to somebody who's, much more susceptible. You also, we've had a number of young people here lately who've been in the hospital, have been intubated, same as we were seeing with the more mature group last year. And, for a while, it looked like the virus just didn't seem to hit young people much, or was pretty mild. I've had parents tell me they don't worry about their kids at all because it'd just be a cold if they get it. Well, that may have been true last year with the original virus, but with the Delta variant, it seems to be a real challenge, much more significant challenge to the young. And the other problem is that it's a shorter incubation time. So in theory, you could, spread it quickly in a group of people before anybody could really even catch on and realize there's an infection. Like, for instance, I know some groups of people over the past year have had maybe one or two people get infected. They can then isolate and not necessarily carry as much of the virus and be as contagious to others and spend a few days lying low and they didn't really spread it. This one may spread before anybody realizes anybody's infected. And, that's a problem.
So, Dr. Clothier, as we get ready to step into the classroom, because it's happening, schools, Garland, I think ISD's already gone back. We've got schools going back
last Monday.
Yeah, we have schools going back on the 11th. What kind of other wellness should our students be and families be looking for? Should we be making a doctor's visit before we start the school year just to get a physical?
Yeah, I think it's good. Now, having said that, there's almost no chance you can get in before school starts now because, if you've waited till school started a week ago or starts in 3 days, there are just so many people a doctor can see in a day. So it's that's a little bit of a challenge. But if you can do it soon, I think general health should never be ignored. And you need your child to make sure, that your child is healthy, growing right, getting the right nutrition, encouraging exercise, all those things that are factors. Screen for, other issues that really actually could be potentially contagious in a classroom, say rashes and things like that, are an issue potentially, asthma, all kinds of things. And if you have, of course, a participation in a UIL event, you need a sports physical. A lot of schools do those. But the challenge I find, or at least what I hear, I haven't gone through one of those because it's been a while since I was a student, but what I hear is they kind of rush people through and basically kind of ask them, you feeling all right? Good, see ya, and sign them. And you really need to listen to the heart carefully. Need to make sure no one's having joint pain where they have an unstable hip, say as a child. And, just there are important factors. The reason there's a health screen before a school-oriented participation is that there are reasons that you should not participate until your health is improved. And, that's been established, very well established over time in the health community and, frankly, by the state. That's why the state has required those pre-participation physicals. So, if you're out doing band, for instance, right now in the heat and doing your practice on pavement, you got to make sure you're healthy, that your blood pressure's not high, things like that are very important. And, if you have an infected blister on your foot, that's kind of a big deal too. Those can get bad. We've forgotten a lot of these other things that are big in the era of COVID. They're not being mentioned. And so I just want to mention one other thing other than all there's a lot to be gleaned from a physical. I can tell you that for children, for adults, for establishing that relationship to where a child maybe could tell their doctor that they're being bullied or, have eating disorder issues or all, there are just a lot of things that can be picked up on in a physical. And then there's the big thing that I think people have sort of wanted to ignore is children have required immunizations for school. There's nothing odd about immunizations being required for school. And, all the talk about we got to overthrow the government if they start talking about immunizations being recommended or whatever. The reason there are certain shots that are required for school is that they reduce disease. And by reducing disease, they reduce death and disability. And, that's just something to be kept in perspective with the COVID era, too.
So, Dr. Clothier, what is the biggest difference between a physical for athletics and a general wellness physical for a child?
The signing of a form. That's really about it. Maybe a couple more questions about whether somebody's had concussion, but I think, frankly, those things should be asked anyway. So really, it's, if you're doing the pre-participation physical, there's a form to fill out that shows you did it, and a health form that goes with that the parent and child should complete together. And then for just, a routine physical, maybe you would call it that, with shots or whatever they're due, they're really the same. I mean, there are a couple of different factors. You must check vision, for instance, on a pre-participation physical, just as an example. But your doctor's office should always be getting blood pressure. Your doctor should always be listening to the heart, always examining the child, always talking to them to see if they interact. All those things are going to be the same. So really, whether you happen to be a star participant in activities or, a star academically, you need the same physical.
So, Dr. Clothier, I remember when I was a kid and in athletics, we would all pile into the gym, and there were several doctors with the partitions up, and you would go into your little partition. And I remember, of course, the running joke for middle schoolers, because that's when I first really experienced was 6th grade, 7th grade. You had to drop your shorts and turn and cough. Do they still do that? Is that still a part of the physical?
Yeah, you must be checked for a hernia, at least for certain sports. In Texas, the required one is actually football. And the reason is there's clear evidence that if you're going to face trauma, like a helmet hitting you, and you have only one of any paired organ, and that includes at the privates, but also, like eyes, ears, kidneys, if you have reason to suspect somebody has a problem at one, that must be addressed first before someone can participate in that sport. Because, let's say, for instance, if you have a hernia and that hernia incarcerates during a game or twists because of trauma or other activity, you could lose one of the testicles, for instance, as a danger to the body. So you don't want to also, be the person born with one and lose the other to a helmet hit. And so those things are, yes, they're done. They're very important.
So, Dr. Clothier, have they done anything with looking at the heart? We hear every summer workout or spring workout that we lose a high school student, a college student, even sometimes in the pros, we'll lose a pro athlete due to a hidden heart condition. Is it just a matter of listening to the heart? When will that go to the next level?
Well, yeah, the challenge is there's not a next level for it to go to yet, and that's got to be discovered. And the problem is what you're talking about is that abnormality of the heart that a person is born with, where it makes them more prone to an irregular rhythm. The significant challenge there is that may show up in nothing. You may have normal sounding heart. You might have all normal physical activity right up until you collapse and die potentially. And, similarly, like Marfan syndrome, where there can be a tiny aneurysm around the heart that, can rupture and someone can bleed to death within a minute or two. And that is nearly impossible to detect. So you're supposed to look for clues. So the clues are family history of early unexpected death, long, lanky type body type with Marfan. Certainly you listen for a murmur. If there's a murmur, it's got to be investigated. If anyone's passed out running, personally or unexpectedly in any way, I think that's got to be investigated. But the problem is, and there are various foundations looking at this, there are heart-related groups, cardiologist groups look at this. All doctor groups I know are worried about it. The challenge is, if you have a tiny abnormality, it may show on nothing. You could do an EKG and an echocardiogram on every person you see and never pick one up and have someone, have the syndrome, or it may develop 2 months after the physical. I think of it in a similar way to like a screening mammogram. If we do a mammogram every year, let's say a woman has a mammogram in January, but then a cancer begins to grow in March, and she has another mammogram the next January, that mammogram will be normal, the first one, and then the second one may show an advanced cancer deep into the tissue where you couldn't feel it. And, screening is good, but screening is not perfect. So the clues we look for are family history, personal history of having fainted or passing out or getting short of breath. Listen to the heart. If it sounds perfectly normal, that's good, but it's not proof. but it means there's no indication to, start to worry and look further and keep somebody from participating. And then, it has to be kind of suspicion based in terms of Marfan-like syndrome. You may not be old enough to remember Florence Hyman, who was a great volleyball player back in the, I guess she died about 25 years ago, so it must have been somewhere in the 80s and 90s. And she was, world-class volleyball player, happened to be 6'5", tall, lanky, and then she was playing professionally over in Japan and died during a game from an aortic aneurysm that was undetected because nobody could find that. And, she was only, I think, 35 years old at the time. So, those things do happen and they're tragic, but they're very hard to screen. If you have a family history of early unexplained death, that's probably the single best indicator that things should be carefully considered.
So, Dr. Clothier, let's shift over to asthma. Like this morning, my allergies are on fire. I'm fortunate I don't have asthma, but, a lot of students will enter school with asthma. What kind of things do you do or talk to a family about when you're doing their wellness on a child who has asthma?
Well, there are several medicines that can be used preventively to keep a bad flare from happening. There are plans with the school. You can make a plan with school nurse. There are forms, of course, because schools are bureaucratically linked too. And so there are forms you can fill out for when there are certain warning signs, certain conditions, the use of an inhaler, and then how many times before they call the doctor or go into, the office to be seen, things like that. So there actually are a number of options now. The most important probably is, where are the actual symptoms and diagnosis and how much. You don't want to use a rescue inhaler too much because, that implies there's a baseline sort of a fire brewing that you want to get put out. So you want to look at preventive medicine. So there are a lot of options there. I think just having a plan, having an awareness and a plan with both the school and with the family is very valuable. Now, and, certainly we're about to hit ragweed. It's going to be a big fall allergy season as always.
So, Dr. Clothier, how important is it for you to connect your family doctor with your local school nurse? Is that an important thing? Should they be linked?
Yeah, is this a trick question? Because of course you should have communication, and there is ultimately a healthcare team, and the doctor may be sort of the captain of the ship in a sense, but you gotta.
Uh-oh. I think he froze.
Child has asthma. I think you need to make sure the teacher's aware so they can just be watching. If suddenly somebody's coughing like crazy, wheezing, you got to have an awareness to be ahead of that. And then, of course, the school nurse has to know. And there usually are medicines on hand at school. They're prescribed specifically to be taken at school in a certain way if you need to. And, all that happens in the background of a person's health. It's just critical to have that kind of communication. And that's where when you can pick up on a disease that challenges from that disease can be headed off to keep somebody out of a critical situation, I think that's extremely important. And, going back to COVID, I think that's very important in any infection risk setting. And, of course, schools tend to be because kids get together in rooms. And last year, I didn't really think it'd work out for schools with COVID, but in terms of COVID risk, but they put up barriers and they wore masks in certain settings and they, cleaned and were careful. This year, I think we have a little different understanding of some of the risk. I think the cleaning of surfaces is always nice, but not as critical for COVID as air management is, keeping an air system going, keeping fresh air going. And, I think last year, a lot of schools essentially, if in a weird sense, kind of got away with having COVID around with very low infection. But that was also because there were generally fewer students. If, schools go back at full force, no one online, everyone in the school. That's a bit of a new challenge, and we'll have to see how that works. And of course, again, with the Delta variant that seems to be picking on young people as much as any group, then, we just got to be careful, and we got to be able to be flexible. If there's a huge outbreak at the school, you can't just keep sending kids saying, the ones that got through the first day must be the strong ones. We'll let them go again. You can't do that kind of thing with a serious viral infection. And I just want to mention one more time this week, it's not a political thing. It's not choosing American politics to figure out a way to keep some kids from being educated. It is a worldwide pandemic, and this is a struggle in every nation.
So just real quick, Dr. Clothier, because I think the big F in the room has taken the back seat as a result of COVID. Flu season. We still need to prepare and protect ourselves from the flu. What are some quick suggestions you might have? I know we got to get you off the air.
Yeah, the flu shot. I know people are suddenly oddly pessimistic about immunizations, but the flu shot makes a huge difference. We do have about 20,000, sometimes up to 40,000 deaths a year from the flu, and the flu shot makes a big difference. The people who get the shot and later in the season end up with a flu infection are not nearly as sick as those who haven't had the flu shot. And that's what we're seeing with COVID. You might get COVID after you've had the shot sometime later if you're exposed, but you're not nearly as ill. It reduces the death and the disability and the hospitalization rate and everything else. And that's really like what the flu shot's like. And remember, the flu shot's different every year because the flu virus mutates. And that's what viruses do. That's what we're seeing with COVID. It's mutating. And, that's a normal circumstance with a worldwide virus that's spread through millions of people. So, people who tell me, oh, this, COVID's just like flu, I'm not going to worry, I'll never get a flu shot. Why would I get a COVID shot? Just remember the number of deaths in America is more than 15 times as many in the past year than with the flu in an average year. So the flu kills about 20 to 40,000 a year. There's 600,000 plus dead at this point in America from COVID. That's a huge number. If you have one person in the family or whatever, that died of the flu in 1 year, keep in mind if you thought about 15 more for every one death, that's a lot of people that you would know. And so it's very simple to get a flu shot. I think masking made a huge difference last year, though people don't really want to acknowledge that. In terms of the infection risk, there's very little flu because people are isolated and social distancing and in a mask. And I'm hoping we don't have to have as much of that going into this year. But the truth is, it made a difference. So get your flu shot. They should be out really any day. They usually are out by September 1st. I'll be here before we know it.
So, and Dr. Clothier, the flu does settle in on surfaces. So make sure you're wiping your surfaces down, keeping the kids' hands clean.
Yeah, hygiene does play a big role in infectious disease risk, and certainly the flu is included in that. Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Clothier, cannot thank you enough again for all of your help and information to help our families get ready to start their school year.
Certainly, and keep yourselves healthy and protected, and follow the medical guidelines on, various vaccines. They are there for a reason. Medical scientists spend their lives developing these things to help people, and I think they're very appropriate to help stop the spread of disease.
Maybe next week, Dr. Clothier, maybe next week we can talk about lunchtime nutrition, packing your kids' lunches, and what they should eat for breakfast, maybe. Because I know you like talking nutrition.
Nutrition plays a huge role in health. Sure. That'd be kind of an interesting difference in topic from the last year and a half pandemic. So, very good.
Tell me about it. All right. Have a very blessed day, Dr. Clothier.
All right. Thanks. Goodbye.
All right. Dr. Clothier, Dr. Norm Clothier with Family Healthcare Associates. They have locations all throughout the Metroplex. He's my doctor. Make him yours. What's big in the news? What are you hearing besides masks that need to be worn and kids should be wearing them or shouldn't they be wearing them? What's the science say? The CDC is saying that only 0.5 per 1 million are actually catching COVID. That would be our children I'm talking about. But what is even overcasting that? How about Governor Cuomo? More big news coming out today. 64% of the New York State Assembly is prepared to impeach Mario Cuomo finally. And so will Cuomo finally leave office? I'm telling you, this guy is not going to resign. That is what's truly funny. And not Mario, but Andrew Cuomo. My apologies. I don't know why I said Mario. I guess that's more my era than anything else. But he is not going to walk out of office, man. This guy thinks that he is entrenched. He thinks that nobody can touch him. He thinks that all this will just pass, and it's not going to. Brittany Camiso, the executive assistant who claims that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo groped her, hugged her, kissed her without her permission, went out against the governor on CBS this morning in an interview which she described her experience and explained why she did not come forward sooner. I'll tell you, she, as an executive assistant, number one, she referred to in a report released by the New York Attorney General's office. Speaking with CBS in the Albany Times Union, Camiso described how Cuomo's behavior with her escalated over time, starting with hugs. And, at what point in time, and we've now have 11 people, his top aide has resigned as of this morning. At what point in time do we say enough is enough? At what point in time do we say, hey, Andrew, man, hit the road, Jack? The president has backed off, no longer providing his support for Andrew Cuomo. Go figure. I guess it's only taken 11 women and an executive assistant to come out on CBS's Morning News and describe specifically the type of behavior that she had to put up with in the governor's office for the president finally to say, you know what, I guess this is unacceptable. But I guess when you're walking around sniffing women's hair, I guess that's kind of the way that works. Isn't that right, Uncle Jumpin' Joe Biden? So, but unbelievable that in the state of New York, and Fredo, you should have a lot to say about this, I would imagine, that there hasn't been a quicker exit for Andrew Cuomo. How much does it take for this guy to be forced out of office? And I don't understand why it's taking so long. Dr. Good says he thinks he's a Bill Clinton. I mean, at least Bill Clinton, only we knew about was one, right? This guy has got 11, and he's still sitting in office. I think that if President Bill Clinton had more of an issue, or at least more of a public issue than what we knew, I think that we would probably see the exit door for him much sooner as well. And you're right, Dr. Good. Biden used to be that way with women back in the day. I just don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me how it is the taxpayers of the state of New York, and you, Fred, you say Democrats love him. They don't love him anymore. There has been several polls now that have come out, and polls that are legitimate polls that have said that New Yorkers are ready for him to be gone as well. In fact, there was a poll this morning, really 68% of New Yorkers say he needs to be forced out of office and removed and impeached. 55% say it's time for him to be charged with a criminal act because of the things that he has done. And so with that being said, and what's funny is that the whole nursing home controversy has kind of gone off to the wayside. Why wasn't that enough to show Cuomo the door? The fact that he kept putting back sick people into nursing homes knowingly, and knowing that it was going to cause the mass death that took place in New York. And so very, very interesting what's going on in New York. Very concerned about, where do we go next? My understanding is they are prepared to replace him. So I would say that in a matter of days, we are probably looking at him no longer being around. Moving on to food. Let's talk about something fun, shall we? Big time State Fair of Texas is on its way. Talked a little bit about fair food last week and talking about it again today. I tell you, one of the things that is my favorite, and it's a go-to for me right away. Fried butter, deep fried butter. So, do you go for the deep fried butter first, or the deep fried Oreo cookie, or the deep fried peanut butter and jelly sandwich? What do you go for first? So when you head out to the State Fair of Texas, you go get your tickets. Where do you go first? I go to the fried butter. I know that Kathy goes to the corn dog stand, Fletcher's corn dog stand, but me, I'm going to the deep fried butter to start off. All right, there are 46 days, 1 hour, 52 minutes, 25, 24, 23 seconds before the State Fair of Texas opens up. The State Fair of Texas will open September 24th, run through October the 17th. You can start getting tickets now. You can get your premium tickets. And honestly, I don't know that I see the advantage of a premium ticket, but you can get them. They only last while supplies last. The Chevrolet main stage has announced their lineup, and so we're going to talk about a little bit of music this morning. We know we've got some music goers out there. These are free concerts. They come with your price of admission. Over a span of 24 days, you will enjoy headliners, regional talents, and how many of us love a good Texas band? I know that I do. And so you're going to be able to have that also if you're into Tejano music. There'll be a lot of great Tejano performers at the main stage as well. So who do we have? Friday, September 24th. How about opening up the State Fair at 8:30 with Clay Walker? That's right. Clay Walker will be on the Chevrolet main stage. Also, how about Drew Hill? How many of you know or have heard the hip-hop rock and roll Drew Hill? Saturday, September 25th at 2 p.m. The Black Pumas, Saturday, September 25th at 8:30 p.m. And then let you get your Tejano on, La Ingeniería Norteña. Ta, 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 ta. They'll be out there Sunday, September the 26th at 8:30 p.m. And then Little Joe y La Familia, Thursday, September 30th at 5:30 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. I love this. First of all, who doesn't love a good rib, right? I'm going to tell you, I'm a big fan. Baby back ribs. Take and cook them at 225 degrees. Start them at 7 o'clock in the morning and just let those bad boys cook all day. That's right, all day. So who doesn't like the shiny ribs? They're going to be on Friday, October the 1st at 8:30. I don't think we can eat them. Well, if there's a zombie apocalypse, I think we could eat them. But, yeah, the shiny ribs, I've never heard of the shiny ribs. Anybody in the crew ever heard of the shiny ribs? I'm going to read this here real quick. The shiny ribs. Anybody? Anybody? Dr. Be Good says, corn dog is not real food, processed meat and GMO cornmeal coating, no. Actually, Dr. Good, for vegetarians, they have the vegetarian corn dog even. And my dad loves that. And I'm sorry, but if it's not going to be processed foods that get me, it's going to be the air I breathe. So I might as well enjoy it. Let's see. But yeah, the shiny ribs. Anybody ever heard of the shiny ribs? Oh, that's right. The North Texas Fair and Rodeo starts on the 20th in Denton. My daughter Katerina used to show out there, used to show cattle at the North Texas State Fair. And so there you go. For the first time in 36 years that I haven't been at a school helping with the first day of school. Instead, I'm harassing JP. We love that. Bring it on. Come on, Dr. Good. Let's see. Field of Dreams game on Thursday, White Sox versus Yankees. Coach, did you get a chance for tickets? I never heard. I really wanted to get a ticket. I wanted to get us to go to Iowa and see that game. We'll talk more about that on Friday. But so back to the State Fair of Texas's Chevrolet main stage. Again, I have not heard of the shiny ribs. And so if you have, let me know. Kevin Fowler is going to be out Saturday, October 2nd at 8:30. The Grand Funk Railroad, Sunday, October 3rd at 8:30. Mike and the Moon Pies. I think I might go on October the 8th. They're at 5:30 and 8:30 on the Chevrolet main stage. Who doesn't love a good moon pie?
I was going to say, have I heard of Mike and the Moon Pies?
I haven't.
I don't.
But who doesn't like a good moon pie?
Pies. Actually, I'm not a ginormous fan.
Of moon pies?
Yeah. Now, do you like banana or chocolate?
We're not friends anymore.
I know, sorry. Do you like banana or chocolate moon pie? Because those are usually the two most popular.
Both.
Both. Okay.
With an ice cold RC cola.
Ooh, not with a root beer.
No.
JP not going for the root beer. So moon pies require RC Cola. Not Pepsi Cola, not Coca-Cola.
No.
RC Cola.
And RC Cola has a different taste.
It does. Well, you know what? We should do like a Pepsi RC Coca-Cola taste thing one day.
I wonder if we can find a good old-fashioned lime tab.
Oh, gosh. Remember Tabs?
I remember lime tab.
Yeah, Tab was like my mom and all her bridge friends, all the volunteer moms up at the elementary school. Everybody had a big old Tab.
Now, who still loves Jack Ingram? I love Jack Ingram still.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Saturday, October 9th, 6 p.m. He'll be out there.
Is LaFreak coming?
Yeah, we'll get in there.
Okay.
They're right there. Bill Engvall will be out there Saturday, October 9th at 8:20 p.m. That's kind of specific. Sugar Ray will be on Sunday, October 10th at 8:30 as well. And there it is, La Freak, Monday, October the 11th at 3 p.m. and 5:30 p.m. Craig Parker will be showing his Elvis on Friday, October the 15th, 5:30 and 8:30 p.m. And then Charlie Crockett, Saturday, October the 16th at 8:30. And we close out the Chevrolet main stage with the Last Bandoleros, Sunday, October 17th at 3 p.m. And there's a playlist. This year, and I don't know if they've done it in the past or not, they've actually got some songs on there.
Like, what do you mean?
Well, like the Black Pumas. You can go on and you can actually, before you go, you can go on and catch their YouTube if you've never heard of the Black Pumas.
Oh, so you can decide, like, hey, do you want to see this? That's smart.
Yeah,
that's really smart. You may be like, I think I've heard of this band. Do they have any songs I know? And then all of a sudden, the song that they have queued up is like your favorite song in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's awesome.
They're going to have a big Chevy house party. You might want to check that out. There'll be various times and dates on that. You want to look that up. Different acts will be coming on. Rob Roy Parnell. Who doesn't love good old Rob Roy Parnell? Rathmore will be out there. Clay Melton. Heard of him. He's a regional guy. 40 Acre Mule. Taylor Young Band. 1100 Springs. Brave Combo. Squeezebox Bandits. These are all our local regional guys that come out and they perform. And so
we love that.
Again, the Chevrolet main stage, that is your get and go. One of the other things, U.S. Marine Jazz Ensemble. Don't want to miss that. Wednesday, October the 13th. And the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Bluegrass Band.
And now my ears perk up when I hear Sgt. Pepper's, and I
pretty smart.
I think I've told you this before. Okay, so Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band, that was originally the Beatles did that album. Phenomenal music, great, just greatness. My experience with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band was was it 77 or 78? Anyways, I've actually, it's on my personal Facebook page because it was just recently the anniversary of that movie. And so I was in love with the 70s movie that came out with the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton